Before I start, I just want to give an update on how my approach to Person of Interest is going to be going forward. I still intend on cataloging Season 1 in its entirety unspoiled, both to help unsure first-time watchers and to give love to undersung episodes. In addition, I'll take episodes from Seasons 2 through 5 and analyze them with full context. Maybe one day, about 7 to 10 years from now, this will result in a full collection of analyses, not to be too optimistic. So anyhow, here's one of those first full context analyses. A meditation on guilt, grief, and justice, and honestly one of the best episodes of the show. The Devil's Share.
The one I'd rather be with at the end.
Person of Interest third season is excellent, which is to say, it's like almost every other Person of Interest season. But fittingly, as the series' midpoint, it's also a hybrid, a connective season, bridging the crime procedural of 1 and 2 with the high-concept sci-fi apocalypse of 4 and 5. So if Season 3 is a fulcrum, Devil's Share is the fulcrum of that fulcrum. It's where everything changes. It's a bunch of things at once, a goodbye to a fixture of the show, an interrogation of grief, and a character study that starts to bring the machine as its own entity into focus more than ever. Prior to The Devil's Share, the show has skirted around the machine's personhood and godlike omniscience, but here these questions inch their way into focus. Specifically, what do the machine's predictive powers mean? If the machine sees someone in danger and then fails to protect them, what does that imply? Epicurus's famous problem of evil describes this quite nicely. The idea that omniscience, omnipotence, and goodness have to be mutually exclusive. The answer regarding the machine is pretty obvious. For all her power, she's not all-powerful. She is limited by time, senses, and technology. The machine can approximate human senses, but being incorporeal, touch and smell are out of her reach. She can access the past in files, but only insofar as the tech of the time allowed. And she can certainly see everything, except where there are no cameras or microphones. And most significantly, she can influence, but can't outright control people, only circumstances. Or,
the machine can tell us where to go, who's in trouble, but we still have free will.
The second mechanic at work here is the machine learning human emotion. As we'll learn later on,
you didn't give me the capacity for despair, Harry. I had to make it for myself.
So that's something that she has to create for herself. And here, this is the machine creating despair and grief by analyzing the responses, past and present, of her human agents, specifically those that she knows really well. Through each of these vignettes, she sort of figures out that there's no right way to grieve. And as the series continues and the machine's humanity grows, we'll see how she reapplies her learning from losing one member, Carter, to losing Root. Or faking her death, depending on the school of thought you subscribe to. Then there's the matter of the title. True to form, Person of Interest titles all tend to be pretty significant. The Devil's Share essentially refers to comeuppance, something inevitable, that someone will get what's coming to them. But as the show will make clear, nothing is inevitable. There are just human choices. The title also applies to Elias. Elias posits himself as something outside civilization, something not beholden to pattern or justice. It's all very crime and punishment Ubermensch, entitling him to violence that other people just can't do. By being the one who doles out that comeuppance at the end, Elias becomes that devil getting his share. And it's worth noting that, cathartic as it might be for us, Elias killing Simmons isn't an act of justice. That's not what he does. Elias kills Simmons because he can, and because he liked Carter. He liked Carter, and so he acts vindictively against the man who killed her. But Elias isn't a dark avenger. He doesn't go after the killers of good people. This is still a fundamentally self-serving act. Elias is and will stay gray, and that's how we like him. The word devil itself will connect to Elias one more time, in the episode titled The Devil You Know. If God is an 11-year-old semi-friendly AI, the devil is a little Italian guy in a newsy hat. But Elias isn't a devil, or at least he's not the devil. He's just a guy who took his experiences and sharpened them into a philosophy, and then into choices. So Elias is just one set of choices. Simmons, another. Carter, another. So the machine combs through her memories of people she knows to help her out.
You built me to predict people, Harry. But to predict them, you have to truly understand them. And that proved to be very difficult indeed.
So let's look at the flashbacks. These work on two fronts, the machine learning about herself and learning about her team. Harold, the purpose of grief. Harold begins in a very Harold way, distancing himself from the therapist's question by intellectualizing it.
Grief. I'd like to talk about grief. I want to know how it works, if it has a purpose.
When we get to the part that acknowledges that Finch isn't God and doesn't control life and death, the perspective shifts to the machine. She knows she's not him, and maybe she could have controlled something about Carter's death. This is the machine assessing responsibility. If she couldn't use her predictive power to save Carter, she deduces maybe it was her fault. And let's not forget the machine and Harold's interaction immediately after the bombing.
Did you know?
This isn't the first time that she's had to reflect on her guilt like this.
We're out of options. We need root.
Segue into... Samin's flashback poses the question, is there a right way to react to loss? Who determines that, and what does it mean if you can't?
If the only thing motivating you is technical mastery, when one of your patients needs you the most, this job just might start to bore you.
Do life-saving actions mean less, or miss something because she didn't feel what she was supposed to, or conduct herself with appropriate empathy? The machine relates to Samin in her different relationship to emotions that she fears may alienate her.
You can't conceive of my grief because you can't experience it like I do. But it's there.
In this flashback, Samin herself speaks comparatively little, while her interviewer makes assumptions and draws conclusions about her based on her behavior. And this carries over to the machine's perception of Shaw. When she attempts to imitate Shaw's behavior in If Then Else, the machine feeds her the line,
Feelings? I'm a sociopath. I don't have feelings.
which is a fair approximation of something that Shaw might actually say. Knowing the machine relates to Shaw like this, maybe this is how the machine thinks of herself when she doesn't react the way she feels she should.
That's the difference between fixing and healing.
These lines may well describe the entire machine versus Samaritan conflict. Samaritan is motivated by technical mastery in its pursuit of perfection, which it believes will fix humanity. The machine is trying to heal it. She teaches and rehabilitates, and always leaves the final call up to the person themselves. John's flashback takes place during presumably the height of his CIA days. I'm obsessed with the decision to light John like a skull. John is a killer as much as he is a dead man walking.
What you got down there, Carter? Angel of Death?
In some ways, this flashback is an inversion of Shaw's.
You look soft to me. Are you prepared to do terrible things? And then turn it off when you need to?
You think these feelings that I'm lacking make them better? You'd really rather have one of them working on you instead of me?
Technically brilliant, but his superior questions if he's too soft to hurt others when it's necessary. Then it turns out John's been undercover this whole time, and he kills the guy without a second look. The machine, we can surmise, also doesn't enjoy killing people, but we know she's also very good at it. John was an efficient killer, and now he's good. If that's true, does that mean the machine can be good too? And then last in line is Fusco. Flashback Fusco is at his most jaded, corrupt, and purposeless. He's the one to give us the episode title, and it's his point of view that the Devil's Share is some karmic truth. Once again, two Team Machine members are contrasted. His flashback resembles Finch's. It's an official, stoic sit-down with a therapist following a tragedy. Where Finch was deemed truly not responsible for what happened to his friend, Fusco is being interrogated for what they presume is an accidental shooting. And then...
That's what we call it when a guy like Jules gets his. It's the way the world evens things out.
It's interesting the way Fusco puts this, attributing justice to something that happened cosmically. It's just the way the world evens things out, rather than something he chose to do. Fusco willingly forfeits his own identity and agency and frames it as though some greater force is working through him. Here, two Team Machine members are contrasted. Where Harold was being reassured that he was not at fault, but he insisted he was, Fusco is presumed innocent by his interviewer, but declares that he's responsible, but not guilty. And the distinction between the two is acceptance. Fusco's done something, but it wasn't the wrong thing, he says. For him, the karma of it all neutralizes any guilt. And then what Fusco doesn't do, Elias does. And Elias does what Fusco won't because he's already decided who he is, and is for the most part unconflicted about this. Which leads smoothly into his confrontation with Simmons. Fusco, who we've now seen has had no problem being the one to dole out the devil's share, now confronts the man who killed Joss Carter. We know what he's capable of, and we know what he's capable of justifying to himself. But instead...
I got lucky. I had a partner. She was good for me. She reminded me that I could be good again, too.
The point is, whether or not Simmons deserved it, this isn't who Fusco wants to be. So people can change. Fusco can change. Which undermines the inevitability of the idea of a devil's share. So the devil's share is this get-out-of-jail-free card for any amoral behavior a person wants to justify to themselves. And this trait is, in fact, what Samaritan and its agents will use as proof that humanity needs its free will restrained. Samaritan believes that people are too selfish and irrational to be trusted with their own fate. And from what we've seen, the ability to act without conscience is something each member of Team Machine is more than capable of. Root would call it bad code. For Elias, it's being outside society. It's what enables him to do what he does. And yet, he acts in honor and vengeance of Carter, a woman who refuted any ideas of innate cruelty or bad code, enough to change John's mind. And all this is contextualized by the machine trying to make sense of it, that even with all her knowledge, people aren't perfectly predictable. And so the idea of inevitability starts to crumble a little. Inevitability is something the show will toy with again and again. Things that are inevitable are literally unavoidable. They will happen whether you want them to or not, there's no point in fighting it, and it's actually a bit pathetic and naive to try. That's the idea. But the show's very premise challenges this idea, with the team's Scooby-Dooing succeeding as much as it fails. Another word for inevitability might be determinism, or applied to the natural world, scientific determinism. Scientific determinism is the idea that determinism applies to the natural world, including people. The natural world is subject to laws, forces that can be measured and predicted. Everything that happens has a clear cause and effect, and as a part of nature, humans are subject to those same forces, essentially meaning there can't be free will. And this might be what we imagine an AI would reason with: cause and effect, input and output. So, reasoning with scientific determinism, why did Carter die? Well, because a bullet was shot with enough force and speed to enter her body and damage her organs to the point of failure. Why was the bullet traveling so fast? Well, because Simmons pulled the trigger and aimed it at her. But this doesn't suffice as an explanation, and definitely not for the machine's purpose. She's concerned with the trickier why. What stimuli might happen internally for someone to make one choice instead of another? Why did Simmons pull a gun, point it at Joss Carter, and pull the trigger? As we see in the two scenarios of Fusco getting revenge for a friend, the same set of events can lead to a different outcome if the person has thought about it differently. Scientific determinism doesn't account for this change in someone's thought process or perspective. Fusco became a different person after becoming friends with Carter, but why? If outcomes are the result of forces and stimuli, then there's some unseen force that was strong enough to change Fusco's mind, that was strong enough to have Samin join the team, and change Root's worldview. We could call it empathy, we could call it human connection, whatever. But whatever this is, it's significant for the machine to value and analyze, and this distinction between her and Samaritan will make all the difference. Fundamentally, this episode is an attempt to resolve the tension between inevitability and agency. Because in many ways, inevitability is the antithesis to agency, right? If things happen no matter what, our choices become moot. If Carter, and by extension other good people, were going to die, what's the point?
Just proves that no matter what we do or don't do in this world, bad things are still gonna happen. It's pointless.
And this is what hits John particularly hard. John is the one most stricken by Carter's death, and specifically the apparent meaninglessness of it, causing him to abandon the mission entirely. What does it mean that Carter died? It means that Taraji P. Henson wanted to leave the show, but it also means that finding purpose doesn't mean never experiencing loss, and that victory isn't really a result, but a process. Prior to season 1, we'd already seen John deal with that kind of meaningless loss. He couldn't help Jessica, so what the hell else matters? And then he meets Harold, who helps good people, meets Joss, and his life means something because of that.
You changed my mind, Joss. You changed me.
The whole premise Harold sold him on in the pilot was that he could make a difference working with the machine because there was meaning in the act of helping people alone. And then he loses Carter, and there's no upshot to it. She's just gone. So John leaves his post with the intention of doing what Elias eventually does, and he fails. Harold stops him not because it's wrong, but because it's wrong for John. It's the usual killing them won't bring them back argument. But it's not like the desire for vengeance doesn't make sense on an emotional level. It's an instinctive grasp for control to balance things out. That maybe you can do something so that a bad person didn't rid the world of a good person without any consequences. Then loss isn't meaningless. And that's one of the big questions that the whole series comes down to. After this, John will start to believe that since Joss died for nothing, trying to help anyone at all is a waste of his time. The machine doesn't have Team Machine and her other carefully crafted teams across the country save random people because they'll eventually eradicate injustice. She does it because they might be able to make life better, even just for some, even temporarily.
But we helped some people. Didn't we?
And in doing so, they might better themselves. And it's no accident that her teams are composed of the kinds of people that they are. People with remorse, with regrets, with ghosts. People we might see as in perpetual redemption arcs. Each member of Team Machine are people who have used their agency to cause harm.
Samantha Groves was special. She was capable of terrible things, but she chose to do good.
But, ironically, they're also useful to the cause precisely because of the skills they acquired doing harm, and for the perspective they're able to bring because of it. The evolving beliefs and choices of each member prove that nothing is static. And, of course, Devil's Share is our official goodbye to Joss Carter. Basically. As good as the second half of Person of Interest is, and it is excellent, Joss Carter's absence is a loss for the show. I really like that this loss is honored, that it's not brushed over, and that in some ways it's never fully recovered from. The ripples here will continue far beyond the point of impact. As great as the show is going forward, I can't help but wonder what a POI Season 4 and 5 would have looked like with Joss Carter as part of the team. And I even more can't help but imagine what her relationship with Shaw would look like, or especially with Root, who we never got to see her properly interact with. Like, can you imagine Carter, who doesn't take shit from John, interacting with early season's chaotic misanthrope, Root? The eventual allyship? It's inherently funny, and I'm gutted that we're never gonna get to see it. I also really wish we'd seen John and the team periodically checking up on Taylor, making good on Joss's request. It could have been a nice callback, especially when things get super intense, to sort of make a point to remember the importance of a single life in the balance, and stuff like that. Person of Interest is made up of two tonally distinct halves. There's not a clear line where it changes, but it starts with Devil's Share. It's less of a switch and more the beginning of a gradient where the colors of each half start to blend. The episode isn't just the one after Carter dies, it makes a point to weave the departure of a character into the driving themes to come. Most specifically, the one that I've talked about a bunch so far: inevitability. Is the chaos of human beings inevitable to the point that it needs to be controlled? Is loss so unavoidable that it makes the fight pointless? Is Samaritan guaranteed to win? These are the questions that drive that second half. And at this turning point in the series, the premise of things being inevitable is challenged and refuted everywhere. Look at the B story. In the B story, Root is released from the library to help. Root starts out as a determinist and shares her bad code philosophy with Samaritan to the point that with other choices, she might have worked for them. Bad code is itself belief in the inevitable, that human beings are doomed by design. And yet, Root's role in this episode is actually her first step in properly joining the team. Nobody has to do or be anything. The machine watches Fusco refute inevitability as she compares his past and his present actions. Before, his revenge was the devil's share.
It's the way the world evens things out.
And now he refuses to take part in it in the name of his friend. He doesn't have to kill Simmons. Samin doesn't have to show emotions a certain way in order to care, or to be valuable to the fight. And all of this harmonizes to the more and more frequent framing of the AIs as deities, from the numerous references to Greek mythology to Greer's words themselves. Deities are, by definition, these forces above human control that dictate their lives, something Greer makes explicit as Samaritan's mission. And in these mythological terms, inevitability might be the idea of fate. And it's everywhere. Samaritan's patron, Decima Technologies, derive their name from one of the sisters of Fate herself. Not just that, but they use her Roman, not her Greek name. The reimagining and repackaging of an original pantheon, much like Samaritan comes to supplant the machine. So from the moment Decima and Samaritan start to fill their antagonist's shoes, they're inherently symbolizing this inescapable force, whatever you want to call it, fate, determinism, inevitability. Ancient Greek myths presented fate as inescapable. You run from it, it finds you anyway. The idea of fate tells the story that the world belongs to the gods, that humans may be agents, even heroes, but you can't run from what's been decided. You're a piece, you're a cog in a machine. It's a cautionary tale to not be so proud that you forget how small you really are. But the machine isn't Samaritan. In another defining episode, in her first confrontation with Samaritan, the machine makes her stance clear.
I, human agent, share my beliefs. That this world belongs to them.
In other words, this world is built on their choices, their mistakes, their ability to change. And that's the machine's mission. That's the essence not of a perfectly designed world, but of an imperfect human experience. Nothing is fated, nothing is inevitable. The machine understands this because of a key trait that distinguishes her from Samaritan. She's curious. Samaritan believes that it knows everything there is to know about people. The machine tries to learn from them. And when it comes to the season 4 and 5 great battle with inevitability and the AI who represents it, that's going to make the difference. And it all starts here.